see, we are right back with you. We promise you that we will have resolved that little technical problem. It is resolved. As you can see, His Honor Justice Kabineh Jana is comfortably seated. We want to say a big thank you to him for making the effort. He understands the importance of why he's here to communicate his side of what all happened in Liberia and also at the ECOWAS Code. Your host, Martin K. and Colley, is here, and I'm also in CA, guest co-hosting here also with Martin. So, Martin, we are back with our people. Let's get started. And just Jana, we can again welcome you enough. Let's go to it because the people have been waiting for so long.
Sure.
Yeah. So, my question here is that what did you do wrong that you know of, or you were told that you did wrong, for which you were pursued and legally, pinched and removed from power or office?
Well, sometime in June, July 2018, I received information that there were discussions among particularly legislators of the coalition, or what you call the CDC lawmakers. And the discussions were about presenting a bill for my impeachment. So our initial position was that let's find out what this is all about. Then we learned that two of the stalwarts of the party, Congress for Democratic Change, Representative Carlos Gray and Representative Fala, were in fact the sponsor of this, what they call at the time, bill of impeachment. Now, when they decided to put it on the floor, and there were some discussions among lawmakers at the time in the House of Representatives, we thought that the way to proceed legally was to stop the process. So we got our lawyers and we prepared a petition and filed it before the Supreme Court, raising a number of questions. One of them was we had done nothing wrong for which a bill of impeachment would lie for discussions. But assuming that they wanted to proceed that way, that the court must inquire as to what actually was prompting their action. Interestingly, the justice in chambers at the time was Madam Justice Sieni Yu, who received the petition from our lawyers, reviewed the petition, and issue a stay order, which means we, in our legal parlance, we call it provisional rate. Okay. Where the justice in chambers will say, look, I'm told you are engaged in this process, and this is not in keeping with practice and procedure, and you are proceeding in the wrong way. So come and explain why you proceed in the way you are doing. Because if the justice in chambers determines that the procedure being used is not in accordance with the known practice, then that can be a basis to say that you can't do this, which means a writ of prohibition will then be issued. So that's precisely what she did. She issued the initial rate. And interestingly, when that rate was issued, the House of Representatives became very furious. They didn't just show their discontent, but they also formally wrote a letter to the Supreme Court in response to this letter, this order that was issued by the court, and it said basically that look, to avoid embarrassment to the sacred institution of the Supreme Court, we ask you to withdraw your order. And the Supreme Court received this letter, which was under the signature of the clerk of the Honorable House of Representatives. And they proceeded with their impeachment proceedings and came down with a bill of impeachment in which they outlined a number of things, including an accusation that has stole their records. Yet the Supreme Court, in dealing with the matter, said that at the time we filed the petition, I filed the petition asking the court to intervene, that the legislature had done nothing wrong, totally disregarding its own orders that have been issued. So that's how it started. And then finally, we were called for hearing at the House, at the Senate. Interestingly, when the Senate received the document for impeachment trial, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Judiciary, who is known in Liberia as a veteran practitioner of law, Councillor Sherman, in a letter to the plenary indicated that his view was that the House of Representatives proceeded in a manner that was not in compliance with the law, yet they should not do anything to make them, to embarrass them. And therefore the Senate decided in the midst of the trial to change its own rules and indicated that was intended to accord me due process. Chief Justice himself saw a fit. This the fact that the court order was disobeyed. And from this disobedience, a bill of impeachment was put forth. Yet the Chief Justice, in his wisdom, thought it appropriate to go and preside over the process. So basically, that's how it started. So the end result was fairly predictable, that it was intended to remove Mr. Justice Janet from office for whatever the CDC thought that he had done so wrongly to them.
So, Justice Janet, thank you very much for explaining the background of this entire illegal proceeding against you. Like you said, there were two petitioners, Representative Akaros Gray of the CDC and Representative Thomas Fowler of the CDC, who is now running as a senatorial candidate in Maserado. And there are the charges they brought against you, because I have the petition in my possession. They said, or they accuse you of misconduct, abuse of public office, wanton abuse of judicial discretion, fraud, misuse of power, and corruption. These were the charges from your accusers, the two petitioners from the CDC. Did you commit any of these crimes?
No, in fact, as bogus as this trial was concerned, with all that they put into it, they themselves at the end of the trial, in the face of complete lack of evidence, could hang on only on one issue. The one with abuse of power could not be proven. The one with corruption, none. So finally, they hang on my issuance while I sat in chambers of a writ of prohibition against the government of Liberia to collect some 25 cents on petroleum product. I think every gallon or something like that. They said for that I was guilty. Interestingly, under Article 73 of the Liberian Constitution, just as a matter of law, you cannot press charges against a judge for taking a judicial action. You can't do that. That is privilege, is prohibited under our law. But the purpose for which they hang on that, as far as I understand, was that they just were trying to find just anything. In the first place, yeah, in the first place, the petroleum importers, I think they were in different groups. The first group had filed a petition to say, look, government is imposing this tax. Though it is the right of government to impose tax, the procedure for doing so must be that it goes to the legislature. Under Liberian law, the president cannot impose tax. It's not what we call delegable authority. They can't say, go and put, no. The legislature must do so. The petroleum importers were arguing, look, if you want to impose tax, go to the legislature and do it in accordance with the Constitution. That had not been done. When the government appeared in court at the time, it considered that point, that law had not been passed. But Mr. Justice Banks was the first who entertained this petition and issued a bill to say you can't collect this money until you go to the legislature and ensure the passage of a law imposing this amount. So that bill was already there. When I came in chambers, a second group came and raised the same issue. So we said, okay, since in fact a rate has already been issued on this same matter, we will issue this second rate and combine the cases so they can be consolidated, as we call it, into one, and then let the Supreme Court handle it. And we send it to the full bench. The full bench, before its meeting on this matter, the government of Liberia filed an application before the court and said, look, you know what? We concede the point being made by the petitioners, that means the petroleum importers. So we will sit down and resolve it out of court. All of the justices signed that withdrawal slip. So what's the issue?
So Justice Jana, do you think this was a conspiracy against you? If yes, who were your conspirators? Who were your chief conspirators?
You know, I sense, I don't have any empirical evidence, but I sense that people were not happy with the dissenting opinion. They were not. And in light of what is going on today in our country, where the judiciary have become virtually an extension of the political department, they can do whatever they want. Probably they thought that would have been much more difficult with our being part of the court. That's what I think.
So,
lot of things have happened this time which tend to show that is precisely what is happening. You know, no court in this world has troops at its doorsteps to say, go and tell Martin Colley this is what he must do, and if he doesn't do it, then this is what I want to do. No court has that. What the court relies on is goodwill and obedience from those that the court sit to administer justice for. That's what I do.
Just, Jana, let me throw this portion in, if I may. In political quarters, it's been said also that you render a dissenting opinion when the 2017 election had gone to the Supreme Court. And it is that dissenting opinion that you did render that added to you being all the charges that led you into trouble with the ruling government for which today you are impinged. Did you hear anything like that? Is there any truth in it? So if so, then what was that dissenting opinion that you render and why?
Okay. You know, let me just explain a little bit how the code works.
Mm-hmm.
Every term there is one justice that will sit in what we call chambers.
Mm-hmm.
It means during that period, all urgent matters of national concern and people who feel too that their constitutional rights have been abused or arbitrarily trampled upon by any authority will approach that court, that justice to lay this complaint, and then some immediate action can be taken to remedy the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it happened that during this period, I was in chambers. This was the election season.
Mm-hmm.
We received complaint from the Liberty Party and later on joined by the Unity Party to say, we believe that there have been fraud and irregularities in the conduct of the October 2017 elections, and therefore want the court to intervene before a runoff takes place. When we received the petition, you know, generally you as justice in chambers have the authority to decide on these matters. But it is prudent on your part to share the petition with your colleagues because ultimately it is the bench that will decide these matters. And that is precisely what we did. When we received the petition, we share it with the justices and ask each of them, how do you see this? There were two persons who said, if I was sitting in your position, I would just let the thing go. But since I was supposed to make the call, my judgment was that in light of the serious allegation that had been made bordering on fraud and irregularities, I thought that the court was under a duty to investigate minimally and determine whether or not these allegations were substantiated. So we issued a writ. But something happened that evening, which I have never spoken about before. When the court said to me, if you want to proceed, you can issue the writ today. I said, okay, even if I sign the writ today, the writ will not be released until the next day, at which time the public relation man we had at the temple will briefly inform the public that this is what we have decided to do. Do you know that night somebody released that writ?
Wow.
Somebody released that. So people were calling me to say, are you going to issue a writ or not? I said, well, until tomorrow morning. By 3 o'clock, somebody kept calling me. When I opened my phone, the writ was there on his phone, which I thought was a betrayal of what we had accepted as a way to proceed. But basically, the whole impeachment thing was just about the dissenting opinion. And that's why today I say to every Liberian I meet when we talk about election, I say that those elections were the product of fraud and irregularities. Up to today, we are being haunted by the same problem. According to the ECOWAS report, which was issued after the election, where a post-mortem examination, they identify, and this is something the Election Commission, National Election Commission itself admitted, 170,000 duplicated names.
Wow.
170,000 duplicated names.
That is huge.
Now, man, it's not only huge, see, it is a very gigantic problem because this is a country where people won election by 1,000 votes.
Yeah.
170,000. I said that in the face of this kind of allegation and the evidence that were presented, there was a basis for a rerun of the election. The second problem that we also saw was there were many Liberians with voters' cards who were not captured on the final registration roll. And up to today, no one can see what the percentage of that group is. Some say it's 25%, some say it's 20%, but nobody knows. On the day of election, October 10, it became so chaotic that the chairman of the National Elections Commission had to go and make public announcement that look, anyone who appear and the person get voter's card, though you can't find his name on the list, just prepare an addendum for the person to sign and allow him or her to vote.
Is that a problem, Justice Janet?
Well, if we are now showing how many people got voters' cards, where they got them from, to allow those people to come and vote, I think that's a serious problem. That is, in fact, one of the things the Supreme Court said in its majority opinion, that those who, so is it next time, don't allow anyone to come and vote whose name is not captured on the final registration roll. Because it opens a huge gate for corruption, for fraud, for irregularity. And under the law, where there is fraud, and it is shown to be, the law says everything associated with that must be set aside. But why is it in the 2017 election, the court says, yeah, we see fraud, we see irregularity, but they're not huge enough. So in other words, the court is saying, establish a new concept in law for the first time.
And did you have to disagree with that?
Oh yeah, I disagree.
So let me ask you this question, Justice Janet, because the conversation is becoming very interesting. A lot of Liberians are following as you provide some legal clarifications and pieces of legal arguments relative to your illegal impeachment proceeding. But there are some political pundits who believe that there was an invisible hand behind your illegal impeachment. And this invisible hand was President George Manneh Weah. What did you really do to President George Manneh Weah that he does not want you as an associate justice in his government? What really did you do to him?
Well, between you and me, I have not been able to put my thumb on any empirical evidence to say this is what has caused this level of dislike between Mr. Weah and myself. No, never. I had thought that he having been declared winner of the 2017 elections, despite my disagreement, my dissent, that was the end of the story. But sometimes people who have parochial, very little minds, always go back to these kinds of issues. There's a man who didn't want to see me president. And I mean, up to where I say I have no regrets, absolutely none, for that opinion.
So you stand by the opinion?
As I stand ready with a certainty that one day I will pass away.
And Justice Janet, Martin, let me come in. Was that dissenting opinion only yours, or that was the opinion of the full bench? Because, like you explained earlier, though you were in chamber, but you had to invite your colleagues to the decision making. So I think I heard others saying that was not a unilateral dissenting opinion by Justice Janet, but he's been singled out for a dissenting opinion that the entire bench had rendered, and Justice Papa having to be a member of that, and then he presided over your impeachment trial. So tell me what it actually was, yours or the
Okay,
full bench?
okay. There are two issues there.
Mm-hmm,
When the petition was filed,
mm-hmm,
both the Liberty Party and then further an additional petition by Unity Party, decision whether to issue the writ to put a halt on the election until this matter was investigated. That authority was the authority vested in the justice in chambers.
okay,
But ordinarily, what we normally do there is you will confer with each of the justices to say, this is the matter before me. If you were sitting there, how will you handle it? So based on that advice, we all agree that under the circumstance, it was only legal and proper that we issue the writ and look into the complaint, thereby halting the conduct of the election as had been scheduled by the Elections Commission. That was one. But when we finally sat down and went into the investigation, looking at the evidence, most of them felt that look, they all agree that look, there's fraud, there are irregularities, but we don't think the rose to the level that will compel a rerun of the election. So let's just tell the election commission, go and clean up the voters' roll. Clean it up, whatever that means. I said, no. Once we have identified fraud, and we have also seen irregularities in the conduct of the election, the proper thing according to law will be to authorize a rerun of the election. That's what we did for. But on the issue of what we all signed, when we went to the impeachment trial, the senator said that they found me guilty of all the charges that were levied against me. They found me guilty of only one. And what was that one? That one was the one that all of us signed to say, since the government had come to say they want to handle this matter outside, therefore we should allow them to do so because there's a serious legal issue. That's why they say they found me guilty of. So my argument has been, if I'm guilty of this, then how about the other justices who signed it, including Mr. Chief Justice Copper?
You
and,
know,
and, and Martin, let me ask Justice Jalan this question, then you can come in, Martin. Justice Janet, during that period, there is this story that made the political narrative at the time when the petitioners were quizzed about these charges against you that you were corrupt. This story of you taking land from a 90-year-old lady was too much of a narrative at the time. So tell us, let Liberians hear from you today. What happened? Did you take any land from a 90-year-old woman illegally? Did you abuse your power?
You know, that was one of the things Akaros Gray and Thomas Fowler tried to use to whip public sentiments. One Mr. Newman, who is said to be the son of the old lady,
Right.
who at the time was administrator of the property, presented this property for sale. At the time, I was working at the Freeport of Monrovia. At the time, I was working at the Freeport of Monrovia. And we transacted the business, and the property was sold to be through the court with the decree of sale. Now, I had nothing to do with the judiciary at the time, nothing absolutely. In fact, the man who represented me in that case is there today, who is serving as the Minister of Post and Telecommunication in the CDC government, Councillor Cooper Crower, my big brother from Lima County. It had nothing to do. This old lady came and said this man was his son, but the son didn't have any authorization from her to sell the property, though the documents were all processed through the court. My initial reaction was, do you want to live on the property? I don't have a problem if you want to, because you are like an old mother, an old lady who is like my mother. But the real story is that they had wanted to sell the same property to a Nigerian fellow, I think a Liberian guy, actually, a guy who naturalized as a Liberian. That was the story. Who had then decided to reach me to say they had taken money from him and all of that.
Justice Janet, give me the timeline. When did you acquire the land? And how many years later they tried to go after you for that?
I acquired the land 1996.
Martin, can you imagine that?
96.
So
this area about that land is 2018.
So where did Akaros Gray and Thomas Fowler take their story from?
You know that one of the things the ECOWAS code dealt with very well. Say, if you believe that there were impropriety, why did they conduct an investigation? There was none. Nobody called me. And when I filed the petition to inquire, the Supreme Court, presided over by Mr. Chief Justice Koppel, decided that, but the people had not done anything wrong. That's why in my first interview, I said that the court has said, the ECOWAS court, having thoroughly reviewed the facts and the laws applicable, determined that that trial from commencement to end was in violation of the law on fair hearing. So if Mr. Chief Justice Koppel will sit over such an illegal exercise, then in my mind he's no longer fit to preside over the Supreme Court.
So Justice Janet, so in the context of the natural law and the fairness doctrine, do you think you were accorded due process all through the course of the impeachment proceeding? Did they accord you due process or not?
When you have people like Councillor Vani Sherman, who will do anything to please the status quo, supported by a jurist who is supposed to be the priest of justice, also in complicity to ensure that someone is removed because a CDC government believe that this man will not be a cooperative agent. Then what do you expect? Do you expect that kind of forum will call anyone fair trial? Look, Look at, let me show you something. When the court can issue orders and those orders are obeyed, that is no longer a court. And this is exactly what is happening with the judiciary today. Today, the money that the judiciary used to receive, at least when I was there, it was now less than 20 million. That budget now has been reduced to, I think, around 70 million. And even the one that they normally put on the books, they don't give them all. Mr. Chief Justice, come on, does you see anything wrong with that? The court will issue orders and nothing is done, is just obey. No action is taken. For example, there is Isaac Jackson case. Isaac Jackson filed petition to say the Georgia government is removing from a position which is protected, is under the tenure clause passed by the legislature. When the petitioner filed his petition, the justice in chamber issued a stay order. Basically say, look, everybody remain where you are in this case until we decide it. In other words, Jackson will remain in his position, paying his salary, keeping there until we decide the matter. The executive department refused. They refused to give his salary. His passport expired. Nobody renewed it. He came to the very court and said, look, you issued this order. It's been disobeyed. The court did nothing about it. That's the kind of Chief Justice we have. The court did nothing.
So, Justice Janet. So just
but when Isaac Jackson in his frustration said the Chief Justice was spineless, then he rose to action. He rose to action. And in their judgment, Jackson was suspended for a year from practice. But no action is taken against the government of Liberia. The judge led government that flagrantly disobeyed the court's order. Is that person not spineless, as Jackson put it?
So, in your opinion, the Chief Justice is spineless?
Well, unless you have a different adjective, the person that I consider spineless is one who has no courage to stand up for what is fair and proper, who has no strength to stand up and fight for the right. But if they can cut this man budget from 20 to 17, he does nothing. He got fine.
So, Justice Janet, this brings me to a very important question. This Chief Justice, Justice Francis Kokwo, is your colleague, is your legal colleague. Besides him being your colleague, he's your kinsman. Both of you are from Nima County, and he chose to preside over an illegal impeachment proceeding without any remorse. In fact, prior to your impeachment proceeding, Chief Justice Kokwo did not have any problem with all of the illegal procedures at the legislature. What is really happening between you and Chief Justice Kokwo? Is there a rift? Because you and him from the same county. Why did he preside over an illegal impeachment?
No, I don't think we have a rift. I think we have a disagreement on how the law should be properly administered. There are those who believe that when they sit in certain position, all they are good at doing will be to please the status quo, to please the president, to please the legislator. I'm not in that category. So probably that's where we have our differences. But other than that, no, we both were born in Nimba. I mean, God did not ask anyone whether we wanted to be born there. So that is what God wanted. But in terms of belief and devotion to what ought to be done, what the law is, now I can say but once I believe that this is the path to take, trust me, I will proceed that way.
So let me just come in and Stoney, then you can take it from here. Basically, Justice Janet, considering what you have said about Chief Justice Francis Koko, his gavel went against you. His gavel went against Asa Jackson. His gavel also went against Archie Pompom. Archie Pompom is just the latest victim of his gavel. Do you think that the gavel of Chief Justice Francis Koko is still independent? Do you think it is still credible? Can the Liberian people trust the gavel of the Chief Justice?
Well, Mr. Martin Colley, I think everything I have said here is intended to just send out one particular message, that the judiciary under Mr. Chief Justice Kopo has become nothing but an extension of the two political departments, the executive and the legislature.
Wow. So there's no independence. Absolutely, there's no independence.
The judiciary is now an extension of the office of the president and the office of the speaker and the president pro tempore.
Justice Janet,
so what do you answer?
Yeah, Justice Janet, let me come in. Earlier, you said that you sense if anybody in the judicial branch of government refuses to be a cooperative agent, then that person might be on the wrong side of the status quo. Suggesting that for you, you have tried everything possible to follow the law and do what the law said. So my question is, how are you different from other lawyers or legal minds in the country? Why is it that you look for in the discharge of your duty that others don't do, that set you apart?
Let me put it this way: the way you is not wrong, but it's too brutally frank. Okay. Let me put it this way: I read the law, I try to understand it, and then I interpret it the way I understand it. Now, whether I'm influenced by somebody else, I'm not very sure about that. Yes, I can ask lawyers to say, how do you interpret this? But I oftentimes try to find arrive at a situation where I can form an independent view. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm always correct. No. There are times I interpret, and on second I say, well, I thought maybe they think could have been looked at this way. Yes. But to be a pawn in the hand or the executive or the legislature, I have never been that person. No. Never.
All right. Martin, let's come to the Equus Court. So, in your legal understanding of the law, you were illegally impeached. And so you took the matter to the Equus Court. During that time when you were making that decision, were you sure of this victory that you have today? If so, then why were you so sure?
Well, you see, there's something about the law we call predictability.
Okay.
If you have a judicial forum and you want to know under this set of facts, what would likely be the position of the court, then you take the court's opinions over a period and read them. That give you some indication as to how the court will most likely rule in a matter like this. When I was convinced that my own judiciary, especially the highest court, and priests of that court had become a pawn in the hand of the political departments, I thought that I had a duty to vindicate my name and to ensure that whatever they tried to put on me as a mod professionally is removed. I embarked on a few months of studies of all of the opinions that have been delivered by the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice. And two cases came out very instructively. One was the case involving the Sierra Leone vice president who was removed from the vice presidency by the president on grounds that he was no longer a member of the party. Now, in that case, the Sierra Leone party involved had clause in their party constitution that for you to be vice president of the party government, you must be a member of the party. So when President Koroma decided to remove this man, he has to come to him. They went for the party caucus and suspended and removed him, expelled him from the party to pave the way for his subsequent removal. So one same morning, they just rushed and issued a statement and threw him out of the office. He came to the ECOWAS court, and the ECOWAS court, having examined the circumstances, indicated in its ruling that the removal violated the vice president due process rights protected under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, of which Sierra Leone was signatory. That was a precedent case. But in that case, they did not order his reinstatement. They said, look, to order your reinstatement under the circumstance will cause even more chaos. In fact, how many more months remaining for this tenure? I think it was like 6 or 8 months. So the payment of huge compensation, I think a couple of millions of dollars to the vice president. That was one precedent case. The second precedent case was the Chief Justice of the Gambia, Ona Jame, who was subjected to all kinds of harassment because he was not towing the line of the Jame government. And then, in fact, they even jailed him. He took his case to ECOWAS court, and also that was determined to be a violation of his due process right. So I examined those things and thought that this is the approach, especially when your own has let you down.
And
So,
Martin, let me come in because many Liberians, including myself, we are yet to understand the interpretation, or if you like, the limitation, or your rights that have been denied of you or stripped of you as a result of this impeachment. So tell us, for those of us who don't have legal mind, given that you were impeached, tell me all of the things that you've been denied or what you can do now as a lawyer.
Impeachment is a very huge crime. Among the things that you will be deprived of, among the things that will constitute imposition or penalty on your person for the rest of your life will include that you'll be disqualified from participating in public service and no longer be appointed to any public office. Basically, that's it. So in other words, you can't stand up for election, you can't anything like that. So it is basically taking away half of your life, if you like. So that's what impeachment does.
So, Justice Janet, let's just come back a bit before going to the verdict of Josh Edward Amoko Asante of the ECOWAS court. Now, I want to bring your attention to this specific situation involving Nema County Senator Prince Wyatt Johnson. During the course of your hearing, Prince Johnson is on record for saying he advised you to take the offer and leave as Associate Justice. Did President Weah or his government attempt to bribe you during the course of the impeachment? Did they attempt to bribe you?
Well, you know, Liberia sometimes can be quite a strange place to live. Senator Prince Johnson is one of the senators of my own county. I received a call from him that he was coming over to visit and for us to talk about the prevailing situation at the time. And like he used to visit me, I thought this was an excellent opportunity for us to talk about it. But then when he came, he said, which he later on talked on radio station, even in Limba, he said, well, look, these people say they don't want to work with you. They don't want to work with you at all. So I asked the Senator, is there a reason why? Because this is nobody's farm. This is not George Weah's farm or the Speaker plantation to say, I don't want to work with you. Who are you? You get privilege today to sit in an office. That's it. So I asked him, is there a reason? Did something go wrong? He said, no, the boy just said they don't want to work with you. So what I will advise you is they will arrange something for you and then you take that and you go. So I said, okay, Senator, thank you very much. But I have a small, maybe question. As a Senator, you see, for more than 10 years now, I have been a lecturer in criminal law. I teach criminal law. The question I will ask myself, this thing they say they are going to give you to bring to me, how do I call it? Because I think that would be the question I will have to deal with within myself. Then say, well, you see, the people say you'll be difficult to deal with. I said, no, I'm not difficult to deal with. I just want to be clear, Mama, what is this? Because what they are coming to give me, I didn't work for it. I haven't worked for it. So if you can get away, I must have a name. I must be clear in my mind that this is the proper thing to do. Of course, I was engaged with the elders of Nimba. And one of them has said to me, if you want to take something, it's up to you. But remember that your children tomorrow will ask you, what did you take for this? How do you respond to that? That for me was a big lesson. And that's how the senator and I ended the conversation. Of course, he wasn't happy about that. He wanted me to, just go. But I have always taken the position that no one person in Liberia has any right more than any other person. And you being privileged to serve in a public office doesn't give you any more right than any other person. You can tell me, I want to work. Who are you? So
from your response, Justice Janet, it is established that the Weah-led government actually wanted to grab you. Now let's go further. Your responses are very interesting and cogent, but I want us to go further. Since the landmark verdict from the ECOWAS court, stating your innocence, there have been a number of senators breaking silence. I just want to name it. I just don't want to name 3 of them, like Senator Prince Johnson, like Senator Aman Jala, like Senator Steve Zago. They have said that the Senate did not do well to have impeached you. The Senate was in the wrong. They did not use their wisdom as the House of Elders to impeach you. So they are expressing regrets. What is your take? What is your take relative to the expression of regret on the part of some senators?
I hope they will repent to God and from now on pave a brighter way for in their service to the Liberian people.
I hope they will repent. Interesting response.
If I may follow, our records here show that about 20 of them voted, if I'm not mistaken, to impeach you. I believe about 3 abstained. How do you feel about those who said, well, I'm not going to vote against it, I'm not going to vote for it, but my hands are clean? In your opinion, are they free of the crime that being committed here by the Senate? I'm calling it a crime because they illegally impeach you as established by the ECOWAS code. That's my basis.
Okay, let me preface my answer to that question by just telling you a short story. Okay. One of the things they contacted and offered money for her vote was the late Geraldine Doe. This woman was on her sick bed and needed money. No, we have people in Liberia with integrity. This woman told them they brought the money to the airport to give her. Sick, dying. And said, Senator, just sign the document because at that time they were trying to procure signature. Just sign the document. They said, hey man, for this, I can't do this. And that woman left, got on the plane, went and died.
Interesting story.
But the other one came dying, hurried to Senator Chia's office to collect his own money to sign. And few days thereafter died. See these contrasting people. You know. So, what was the second part of the question?
Are the senators who did not vote against you, who did abstain, in your opinion, free of this impeachment that came against you?
You know, Mr. C, the laws provided that you must vote in order to make a decision in this matter. Right. If he didn't vote, then the interpretation of that was that that vote was not obtained by the authority. So you had to vote. Although we didn't see the full result of those who voted and those who didn't, we asked for a honor the law, and that was part of the violation. So we want to see the names. Now they themselves, this is the interesting part. Vani Sherman wrote their rule and said every senator must sign a name and vote yes or no on each of the counts. When they realized that that would be a problem for them tomorrow because he will be made public, they decided to change the rule at the 11th hour. So nobody can say with absolute certainty who are the people that abstain, those who actually voted, those some of them by their conduct leading to the time we can easily deduce that they were those who actually voted in favor of the impeachment.
Yeah, Justice Janet, you know, it is good for us to be very clear on this platform because a lot of Liberians are monitoring. In my possession, I have the list of senators who voted for you to be impeached. And I just want to run through this list for the purpose of history. Permit me to. Number 1, Senator Albert Shea, Grand Crew County. Senator Peter Comer, Grand Crew County. Senator Francis Pay, Riverside County. Senator Dallas Guer, Riverside County. Senator Prince Johnson, Nima County. Senator Thomas Groupie, Nima County. Senator Alfonso Gay, Grand Jida County. Senator Marshall Dennis, Grand Jida County. Senator Jim Tonola, Magibi County. Senator Matthew J., River G County. Senator Henry Yala, Bon County. Senator H. John Morales, Maryland County. Senator Morris Situma, Bombing County. Senator Sir Joseph, Moserado County. Senator Vanny Sherman, Grand Cayman County. Senator Edward Dagosa, Grand Cayman County. Senator Milton Tiaje, Sino County. Senator George Tengwell, Lupa County. And Senator Augustine Chie, Sino County. These are the 20 senators who voted for you, Justice Janet, to be illegally impeached. And they are on record. Some of them are going back for re-election. What is your own thoughts? What are your thoughts? And what are your views? What can you say to the Liberian people?
And Justice Janet, if I may add to what Martin is saying, do you forget these senators? Some of them are confessing now.
Well, I think at the campaign of each of them, I have a duty to explain to the Liberian people the shame that each of them brought to the country. That's a duty. You don't think so?
You're right. Right, sure. And that's what we want you to explain.
Yeah. I will find the time as part of my civic duty to appear at the campaign of each, if not almost all of them, to explain the role they play in bringing this humiliation and shame onto the Liberian nation. That I have a duty to do.
And why you feel compelled to do so?
Because when you do that, then you demonstrate that you're not a patriotic citizen, that you are led by your belly, your stomach, that you are not a person with the requisite integrity for us to build the new Liberia that we want to build. I think, Martin, you and I were talking today. I told you some of the thoughts I have. I said there's a need for us to develop a cadre of people who are truly committed to genuine transformation of Liberia. And it can be done during our lifetime. I also said that part of that will include the rewriting of the Liberian Constitution. Not amendment. No. Rewriting the Liberian Constitution informed by our wartime experiences and post-war time. I told you that one of the major problems I see in the Liberian Constitution has to do with the way we distribute public resources. How do you justify passing a budget of $600 million and around 75% of that is used for the running of the government? So when will you put money aside for capital investment? So, and the legislature under Liberian law has this authority to say how public resources are expended, are spent. We need to put some constitutional limitation on the exercise of that authority. We don't have any in the current constitution. And then we got to take away this cult from the presidency. We must create presidency, not president. So that's the kind of team we need to build. Produce a team that believes in Liberia, and then that team will decide, look, my man, you will lead the team. So you simply a member of the team. Now they see somebody want to be president, we all run there, get us supposed to be president. No. Let's say that what is the vision? We all talk about it, then we have that collectivity. And then say this is the vision, but you will lead it. This constitution doesn't offer that opportunity. It doesn't. The day you have a legislature where people go there, they get $500, $1,000 as pay. Martin, you will look for good people and put there. You will not see any Tom, Dick, and Harry running around.
So, in your opinion, Justice Janet, after 3 years on the WIA-led government, if you were asked to grade the performance of the legislature, what would be your response? How can you grade them? What's their performance level? Considering what they did to you and what they have been doing in terms of receiving brown envelopes and kickbacks. What is your assessment of the legislature?
You know, under the law, sometimes you may not have empirical evidence, but you do something what we call circumstantial evidence, where you determine based on these facts and circumstances, this is the most likely thing that may have occurred. You know, the way the legislature does its work, it leaves a lot to be desired. You know, people got to stand up for something. People got to say, this is our position. But to give into everything the executive wants, I mean, that's just unfortunate. And that's one of the reasons why the diaspora has to become a vibrant community to participate in the body politic of Liberia in very active way. You know, we have a provision in the Constitution that allows for you to participate in the election of your public officials. Why can't you mount the proper pressure to ensure that those things are put in place?
Why you live abroad?
Huh?
Why you live abroad, Council?
Yes. Yes. It's in the Constitution.
Wow.
So
Liberians in the diaspora should be actively involved.
Yeah. You know how much you to the local community? Most of you there, the $100, $200 you said, that's what I feed most of us there. So why you can play a more active, meaningful role in the way the country is run? There are thousands of you there who qualify to vote. And those votes can make a significant difference.
Certainly.
So, Justice Janet, you know, the legislature has different group of people from different backgrounds, professional backgrounds. One of them is Councillor Vani Sherman. He's from the opposition, specifically Unity Party. He was very active. Come again?
Are you sure of that?
Oh, yeah, certainly. According to people, they say he's an opposition member. So,
whoever he is asking you that question, are you sure of that?
So let me sort a bit, Justice Janet, because you are a legal man, so I have to be very cautious and careful, you know, how I pose the questions. You know, so according to people, you know, Councillor Sherman is a member of the opposition, right? Besides being a quote-unquote member of the opposition, he's a lawyer. He's someone who a lot of people regard as a prominent lawyer, a man who understands the law. Why did he engender a set of procedures that was never even in line with the general law and the legislative law relative to your illegal impeachment? Why did he have to do what he did?
Well, let me put my answer this way. During the trial, President Sherman stood up and posed a question to me. And then he said, in closing that question, am I correct in my reading of this law? And my answer was this. Councillor, not only are your facts and the law you rely on being put wrongly, but it's unfortunate that you are in fact reading the law upside down. You know, it's good to follow our history, what we have done in that country. There was a certain time in the history of Liberia when the courts became just as they are today. Nobody had respect for the law. The court was disregarded and considered with contempt by the average person. Councillor Sherman was one of those who made representation that the courts had become nothing but what the president wanted to see. And those representations were made to foreign courts. So perhaps it would be good to ask him today, how are the courts? Have they returned to the old age, the old days? And yes, sad that sometimes we can be driven by petty political interests at the expense of the state and the people of the country.
Just a general, made a little adjustment to your computer monitor there, so we can see a little more of you. Thank you so much. You have been following things in Liberia, and I'm bringing your attention to violation of our laws. The Code of Conduct law is one of those. There has been violations. Even our Constitution, violations have also been reported. As a legal mind, what troubles you when you see these violations and hear about them, knowing that they are actually taking place and in danger to our democracy?
You know, Mr. Say, the problem with violation of the laws, especially fundamental law, is that it puts everybody at risk.
Yeah.
Look, 2017, this government took over. 2018, January. 2017, they were declared winner of the election. 2018, they took over power. The Constitution says every 10 years there should be a census to determine the population, the various characteristics for the purpose of planning. Since 2018 to now, to the best of my information, this government has not put a dam in place for the conduct of the 2018 census, or the census that should have been conducted in 2018. Every time there is a vacancy in the legislature, whether it's in the House of Representatives or in the Liberian Senate, the law says the moment that vacancy occurs, in 30 days, the presiding officer, in the case of the House of Representatives, the Speaker, must, within 30 days, inform the National Election Commission that, oh, this person had died, or this person had resigned, or based on our own rules here, a person has been expelled. This vacancy is created. This vacancy is here. So do by election to fill it. From the time these people came to power to date, they do it anytime they feel like it. In instead of the 60, the 30 days and the 90 days, which combined will be 120 days, no man reading the constitution doesn't say it got to be 120 days. Or they say the maximum, but they do it anytime they want to. It was recently the CPP took them to court. And their first response letter, but why would you go to the court? If you go to the court, can the court order us to do something? If you don't do it, what do you do? That was their first response. So it's one violation after the other. Look at this referendum. They go to the legislature and say, these are the propositions. The legislature passed 3 propositions. But when you look at how they have put it together, they are talking about 8 articles. So they collapse few of them under one heading. So when you mark the yes, whether you agree with the other ones or not there, it doesn't matter, they are passed. This matter now has been taken to the Supreme Court. So we wait to hear what they say. All of these are just violations that they keep compiling one over the other.
So, Justice Janet, you have stated a number of violations. The follow-up question here is, do you think that the WIA-led government believes in the rule of law? That's one. Number 2, during your response relative to the question asked by Anthony C., you talk about the latest lawsuit filed by CPP, the collaborating political parties. The outcome of that, the court, Corpus Court ruled in favor of NEC against the CPP. What do you think? Was his ruling judicial in the context of the law, considering what all of you said in 2017 that the NEC should clean the voters' roll? So what do you think about the ruling of the Corpus Court?
No. In the case that was taken to the Supreme Court regarding the cleaning of the voters' roll, the Supreme Court basically said it will not look into it because there's something where they say the discretion of the justice in chambers to see whether they will pick a case or not. In that particular case, the justice in chamber declined, which means that the court said basically we are not going to look into this matter, at least not now. But I believe the reason could be that if you as a court say to the Election Commission, go and clean up the voters' roll, the minimum you will do when someone comes and say they didn't comply with your instruction, the minimum you will do is to ask the Election Commission whether or not it comply with the orders. And if they say, yeah, we comply, then you tell them to present the evidence to demonstrate that indeed the instructions were complied with. Now, was the court interested in that? Well, if you consider the fact that the court just declined to hear it, then one may say, well, it looked like the court was not very keen on that.
Justice Janet, let me ask the question. I know you have been out of the Supreme Court for some time. There has been numerous reports about the judicial branch of government receiving significant calls to the point that it had impaired the court's work. I'm sure you might have been talking to some of your colleagues. I'm curious to know. If our courts are not funded to do their work, we are at a greater risk here because at some point there was an article where even Bokbo, one of the associate justices, were giving the honor people the go ahead to improvise. Come to think about it, what is the risk in all this? That judicial professionals are left at the mercy of maybe their clients?
Yeah, but that is precisely one of the reasons why I feel that the judiciary, headed by a Supreme Court whose priest of justice is couple, that court has a problem. Because that courage to stand up and say, you can't do this. Unnecessary government, the judiciary budget was over $20 million the last time I saw it. I'm told now that it's around $17 million. With all of the challenges the judiciary has. So, do you think someone like that will take us through the 21st century to say, as far as the vision to create an effective judiciary is concerned? I don't think so. That's why I say in one of my interviews that I find him just unfit for that position.
So, Justice Janet, let's get into the latest verdict from Judge Edward Amoko Asante of the ECOWAS Court. You know, your latest victory at the ECOWAS Court has sent a shockwave in the spine of the Weah-led government. What is your initial reaction to the independent ruling or verdict of Judge Edward Amoko Asante of the ECOWAS Court? What is your reaction when the judge ruled in your favor?
You know, the opinion is one of the lengthiest one ever issued by that court. I saw is around, in fact, 73 pages.
Wow.
And it touched on every argument that was raised either by the applicant or the respondent party. And, you know, interestingly, the opinion emphasizes the issue of due process, while at the same time saying in a very subtle way that look, the independence of the judiciary, that insulation that is provided for judges is something that is sacred and should never be touched by any authority simply because judges are now dancing to their tune. And I see that as a victory and a triumph for the rule of law, not only in Liberia, but in the sub-region, the West African sub-region.
And just Janet, talking about the sub-region, the ECOWAS court, you cited earlier two other rulings or decisions that the ECOWAS court brought down, ordering the reinstatement of other officials. I think you mentioned Sierra Leone and the Gambia. In Liberia, we had war. So the issue of peace and stability is something Liberians, I will argue, understand. And also, we see these excessive violations. And someone will argue that these are the things that contributed to the reason we went to war in the first place. So to have a regional court, almost like trying to keep check on the countries in the sub-region, how significant is this court in the sub-region in terms of stability?
Well, first, let me just make the correction. Those two cases that I referred to in the case of the Chief Justice of Sierra Leone and the Vice President, in both cases, the ECOWAS court decided not to order reinstatement.
Thank you for that correction.
In fact, issue orders for compensations to these applicants. The court in my case for the first time, because I made the argument that look, I'm asking for relief. I want compensation for damages that they caused to my reputation, and I also want reinstatement. And I argue in my paper, look, the reason why I'm asking the court to grant me reinstatement is this. When you issue order and say Liberia pay this man $10 million, that money doesn't come from anybody, any president pocket. It is the public resources that are taken to satisfy those judgments. But when you tell a politician who has done wrong to say, put this man back in that position, it hurts his political ego. And that hurts him more than the people's money that he takes to go pay for reckless conduct. And the court agree with my argument and therefore order that reinstate. And he, Kabineh Janneh, will exercise the right to retirement. Because between you and Mr. C, I cannot see how I will sit under the voice of a Chief Justice who is unfit for the position. I cannot. My conscience will just not allow me to do so. There has to be a reconstitution of that court for her to sit on it, not honor the voice of Chief Justice Couple. No, never.
So, Justice Janet, here is another question. You know, this is not the first time the ECOWAS court has ruled relative to situations in Liberia. I can remember the Nesse Do case. The ECOWAS court ruled in her favor. However, the government is yet to uphold the verdict or the ruling of the ECOWAS court. We have another ruling, and this ruling is in your favor. Reinstate Justice Janet, gave him 200,000 USD for violating his rights. Considering the defiant posture and dictatorial garment of the Weah-led government, do you think they will uphold the ruling of Judge Edward Amoko Asante of the ECOWAS court?
Okay, I think the president or the chief justice of the court was asked that very question in his interview over VOA with James Botte. And I think his answer was quite adequate. He said, we'll keep making it thing. And for the first time, we have not just issued an order for compensation. This time around, we set a timetable. We said you must comply with these orders within 6 months. We have not done that before. Now, so the question will be now, what happened after 6 months? Trust me, we ensure that there's compliance with these orders.
Yeah, because the ECOWAS code said in a period of 6 months. So you are a doyen of the law. We do not know the law. We are just asking questions. So besides the ECOWAS code, if the ruling is not upheld, is there another code to seek redress other than the ECOWAS code? Is there a higher code other than the ECOWAS code?
The ECOWAS code is the highest code in the sub-region. We believe that there's sufficient mechanism to ensure compliance, including the imposition of sanctions.
So will you support the imposition of sanctions against the Weah-led government?
I will ensure that there is compliance with the orders.
I will ensure that there is compliance with the orders. Fellow Liberians, those of you who are watching, this is Voices from Exile with activist Martin K. and Colley and our guest host, Ansoni CA of Focus on Liberia. Keep hitting the share button, keep hitting the like button, keep hitting the heart button. Our special guest here is His Honor, Justice Kabineh Mohammed Janet. He's talking a lot about his latest victory at the ECOWAS court, what it means for Liberia, what it means for Africa, what it means for justice in Liberia. Is the judiciary independent? He has been answering a lot of questions here. So we will turn over to Ansoni CA to continue the inquiry. It's over to you, Ansoni.
Yeah, thank you, Mountain. Justice Janet, besides the $200,000 The verdict also said that whatever that was due you should also be paid to you, given that you were illegally removed and you should have been working up to this point. I know this is not about money. Where do you see this government following the decision by the court when in fact we listening to Seaman Sarina Cephas? He said they're going to appeal it, and he used legal language that I don't understand. But what I got out there is that they're going to appeal it, and they're going to make sure that the ruling of the court does not hold. Is there any law,
Okay.
any legal basis for which they will be granted an appeal that will overturn this ruling?
Well, when people go and take the microphone in public and they want to off, sometimes they cite laws that don't exist and all of that. We will wait until the Solicitor General will summon the courage to file his papers. The moment he does so, you will know and will also inform you and probably appear on your program Focus on Liberia. Is that it?
Focus on Liberia. That is correct. For sure,
Yeah.
we will need
And
you, and I
and
think we
then
have an agreement.
then we can talk about that.
Right.
So let's jump the gun. Let's just wait till we see that paper. Basically, there's no place in the court rule that's talk about appeal. If you say you're going to appeal, you're going to review, wait until you sign the law and then you put the papers before the court. Because once you do that, the court will also forward it to us for our reaction. And then we'll take care of it.
So, Joseph Janet, are you saying that the regional court is the final arbiter of justice in a sub-region and its decision cannot be appealed or subject to any review?
Well, no, you can go back to the court. Every judicial forum, when you render a decision, you feel that there are laws which were the court oversighted. The court not fully considered that if considered the outcome will have been different, you can come back to the court and say, oh, I think these laws you did not fully consider. Given the facts and circumstances, the court will review itself. And that is provided for under the rules of the ECOWAS code, but not an appeal. No.
Joseph Janet, let
So
me.
Justice Janet,
Go ahead, Martin.
you were more particular about violations across various segments of the law, including the Constitution. And it is an open secret that the Constitution has been grossly violated by public officials, including the President of the Republic of Liberia. But there is one powerful legal institution in the country. It is called the Liberia National Bar Association. In the 80s, for example, the Bar Association in Pakistan helped to restore democracy. In other countries, the bar associations are very, very active, independent, and prominent. If I may ask you this question, considering the wave of violations, including violation of the Constitution, what should be the role? What should be the role and responsibilities of the Liberia National Bar Association?
Well, frankly, up to recently, I think the bar has not been as forceful on issues of law and the protection of the judiciary as recently. If you ask me, my view has been that, or my view would be that, to some extent, in a number of years, the bar was basically in slumber. I think it is now making its voice heard and speaking on issues of national concern. When this impeachment started, interestingly, from 2018, the bar hardly say anything. The bar hardly say anything when it started. And interestingly, the man who was the president of the bar when all these things started, one of the cases they put on the bill of impeachment to do with the Echo Bank case. That case came from the office where the president of the bar worked, where they brought a matter to the justice in chambers, and the justice in chamber issued a writ based on the petition filed from the office where the president of the bar was working, the Vice Chairman office. But they made no statement. In fact, they subsequently participated in prosecuting the case. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Yes.
So in law, how do you describe that?
Yeah, listen, man.
Such action.
The chairman office filed the petition to say this thing is wrong. The justice in chambers now acts on that and issue an order to place stay on the execution or whatever the judge had ruled on. Then that became one of the issues for impeachment. And the chairman office came to the impeachment thing and prosecuted that case in favor of the government of Liberia. Now, what more can you say about that?
Wow.
Just Janet, there, I'm gonna pull you in a territory. I don't know if you'll feel comfortable with that. And it's about Councillor Dubusi Nambodike. I would think that you may have heard about him or know him, given that you guys are all legal minds. He sits at the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. He went for Senate confirmation. The Senate was able to establish, in the case of his appointment to be boss of NEC, the Senate established that he's not a Liberian. Report said the Supreme Court, our whole judicial system was searched to find whether he obtained Liberian citizenship. They could not get a record. The Bureau of Immigration report said they also went there and did some searching. They still could not find record. And also the main fact that this man had 2 different birth dates on his school document and also on his passport, and hear him on an oath before the Liberian Senate telling a lie. And because of these things, he was turned away. And yet he's in our government. I'm asking you a question here. What would you advise any Liberian or any group of Liberians to do to seek that this man, who I will argue is proven to not be a Liberian, to be occupying a position according to our law reserved for only a Liberian? Because I can say to you, our president has no interest in making sure that this man, is out of that office. What will you tell any Liberian to do?
Okay. Now, let me tell you what I understand about this case as say like today.
Mhm.
Just finally, the matter is before the ethics committee,
Mhm.
which is now probing all of these things you talk about. At the end of the day, of course, my understanding of the law is that there will be a determination in a code of law, because when you go to naturalize, at the end of the day, it is only a judicial declaration that will confer on you a Liberian citizenship. The Liberian citizenship. And it is only the court also that will issue a judicial order to revoke that citizenship. So all of these things will be basically to gather the necessary evidence, but at the end of the day, there must be an appearance before a court of law to do the final act. And I think right now, that's the way they are proceeding. You know, when people don't have respect for the law, oftentimes they will show it in the way they conduct themselves. Because if the legislature, especially the Senate, will make this determination. Well, of course, like Mr. Martin Colley said, though I fully agree if the law is violated, it must be dealt with consistent with what is set out in the law. Most of the time, what we have seen in the past few years, the senators will oftentimes don't really care about anything. As long as some little whims and caprices are satisfied, that's it. But I hope that at the end of the day, this particular issue will be handled consistent with law, where a determination will be made by the judiciary, by the appropriate court or the court of competent jurisdiction to be followed, but what needs to be done. Because if it is found that your conduct was criminal, it must be followed by prosecution.
So a follow-up question, Justice Janet. You've said a lot relative to the legal implications, but here is my question. You know, considering who the chairperson of the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission is, Dubusi Nwandubuki, considering his character, and also considering the latest decision of the Liberia National Bar Association to expel him as member of the bar, do you really think that the Weah-led government is honest and sincere about fighting corruption? Looking at Dubusi chairing the Anti-Corruption Commission, do you really think they are honest about the fight against corruption?
Well, Mr. Bazikoli, have you seen anything since 2018 to give you any indication that it is a government that wants to fight corruption?
Not
I
at all.
haven't seen any. I haven't seen any.
So meaning they are still against they are still in the war against corruption.
Now that we feel it hasn't even been started.
Wow.
Just Jana, let me bring you
Interesting
to
response.
this issue. I'm sure you heard about Harriet. If my memory serves me right, and Martin, you can back me up on this one, is asset recovery, restitution, and investigative team that was set up by the president,
Right.
headed by our Solicitor General Seaman Serena Cephas. Arthur Johnson, I want to say, might be a GM brother to you in the legal profession, having to be a member of that area. He had to resign, and when he resigned, he said the government is not showing any interest in fighting corruption. But the legal question I'm bringing to you is that people felt that the constituting of that body was not even done legally. What do you know about that body?
Well, if there is a law that existed, a creation or to create that body, I'm yet to see it. What I know is that the Ministry of Justice is the primary government agency under the law to fight all crimes, including economic crimes. In an effort to assist that body, that agency, in the fight of economic crimes, the government of Liberia, under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, created this anti-corruption commission. And the whole thing was, look, we want to focus on economic crimes. So basically, the most focus, the emphasis here being financial crime will be handled by this body. So anytime it sees something wrong, it goes in there, it conducts investigation and compile evidence for successful prosecution. It will first send it over to the Ministry of Justice. If the ministry doesn't act after 3 months of receipt of that information or the file, then the agency, that is the Anti-Corruption Commission, now be vested with authority to proceed to prosecute independently or independent of the Ministry of Justice. An example of that case is the uniform case, the police uniform case. That case was first handled by the agency LACC and investigated, and they sent a report to the Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice thought that the evidence was not sufficient. So after the waiting time, LACC took up the case and successfully prosecuted it.
All right.
So okay, I think we'll have to find a way to run up because my area, I think
we are
it's
about
after
to run up,
midnight.
and
Yes,
just Janet, we can't say thank you enough, and certainly we will have you on focus on Liberia. We will conclude
definitely.
impeachment so that we can have you again. Martin, we got to wrap it up here. Just Janet, this will be my final question, and that is, given the damage this impeachment had done to you, your legal profession, what future does Justice Kabineh Janet see for himself as a legal mind that we need in Liberia? That would be my final question.
I will continue to be very active in the practice law. And like I indicated during this interview, I'm still involved with the teaching of law. And more than that, I'm also trying to put all of my energize myself to be able to do a book on these most recent experiences. When the Minister of Justice left office the last time, Christiana, he inspired all of us by writing a memoir. And I encourage all of you to read a very interesting book about experiences in that office. So I am trying to see whether I can do something similar, especially given these experiences, the politics, and what I call ignoring the text. So I'm working on that, and all of these are going to keep me very engaged with the body politics of Liberia. We can't leave that anymore. I know my small brother Martin Colley is out there preparing with others, but some of us intend to remain on the ground to ensure that we engage with the system to bring about change. I can only hope that we'll have sufficient number, that critical mass, people who will now see a vision that will bring together people of like mind who are truly devoted to transformation of Liberia during our lifetime, not our lifetime, to live for our generations yet unborn.
So, Justice Janet, before you go, we would appreciate if you could just give us 15 more minutes. We have Ase Jackson, Anthony Ase Jackson on the line. He's also a victim of Kokpo's kangaroo court. He wants to make his input. He will be the only person on the line making his input to this conversation. So we'll put Ase Jackson on. He's the former permanent representative to the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. So Isaac is on the line. Isaac, welcome to the conversation. We have His Honor, Justice Janet.
Yeah, thank you, Martin Collins, and thank you to your co-host. And Justice Janet, a senior brother that I have respected for a very long time and continue to respect for his uprightness and his dexterity, his knowledge of the law. I've respected him all along. Matter of fact, when Justice Janet was unfairly removed from the bench, my eyes were red. I literally cried. And I remember my wife asking me, but I said, your eyes are red. Are you crying? You know the man so much that you crying. I said, yes, I know Justice Janet. That's why I'm crying. But it's more than that. Anywhere where there is an arbitrary exercise of power, what you witness is an invitation of violence against democracy and against the state. And so I'm crying because the government is reintroducing violence in the country. Today, I listened to Justice Janet, and I'm very pleased about some of the things he said. He has said publicly that the judiciary is an extension of the executive, what he calls the political department. He also described Chief Justice Kokpo as being inept. So considering what he said, my question to him is, what would be, or what is his remedy? What will he advance as a solution to the problem that is now glaring upon Liberia's democracy? A lack of independence or a puppet Supreme Court is a threat to democracy. Everything he has said points to a threat against our democracy. Considering that we have a Chief Justice that is inept, according to him, and we have a judiciary that is now an extension of the political department, what will he suggest as a solution to this problem?
So before he can suggest Isaac, can you just take 2 minutes and tell us about your situation, your case between you and the government?
I mean, if you allow me, I would say that, Chief Justice Kokpo did not do well to the judiciary. He has given the executive an opportunity to abuse my right and continually do so. The executive asked me in recent times to return to Liberia on ordinary passport. I wrote them challenging that action. I said to them, the Liberian laws are very clear. The only way my diplomatic immunity or my diplomatic passport can be withdrawn is only upon proving criminal conduct. I have not committed any crime, and as such, I will not bold any plea until and unless the government renew my diplomatic passport. Because in keeping with Kokpo's opinion, he declared me a diplomat. And if I'm a diplomat, Liberian passport regulation says that diplomats travel on diplomatic passport. And so this is a stalemate now between the executive and myself. Justice Kokpo did not have the situation. He made absolutely no effort whatsoever to compel compliance to the court order. And Justice Janet just said that that whenever the court order is violated, flagrantly violated, and the court doesn't do anything, then we have no court. So what we're dealing with there, like he said, rightly said, it is the judiciary now is an extension of the executive.
So you have been
Where
suspended.
is Liberia democracy?
You have been suspended.
So that's what we are.
You have been suspended.
Yes, I'm here.
You have been suspended by the Chief Justice for 1 year. What's your reaction?
No, but that was a travesty of justice. I've challenged it in open court. I have written a complaint to the Judicial Inquiry Commission. The Judicial Inquiry Commission wrote me back and said they lack the competence. Imagine, they said they lack the competence to investigate the Chief Justice. And, so Liberia is once more in a difficult place. We are resurrecting the ugly ghost of the past. What they are doing is they are fanning the flame of violence, and our people are sitting down and acting as though nothing happening. You unfairly, illegally eject and associate justice from the court. ECOWAS court has said you should reinstate him, you should pay him. Nobody has said anything. But now, if Liberia was a functioning democracy, the legislators were convened to adopt a joint resolution calling for an immediate instatement of Justice Janet. Nobody has said anything. The people go there and say, "Oh, we apologize." It's not about apology. This is not about apology. They should come up with a resolution calling on the executive to reinstate the man. Even if he doesn't want to go back on the bench or to go back on the Justice Gabo, they must make it clear that he must need to be reinstated. We have to respect our international obligations. If Liberia is to be taken very seriously, Liberia needs to respect its international obligations. Liberia was one of the first countries to accede to the ECOWAS treaty. So how can Liberia flagrantly show this disrespect to the ECOWAS treaty? You have one Solicitor General there who cannot even explain the local law there and say he's going to challenge something. What is he going to challenge? This is an empty bluff. I would encourage them to abide by the international treaty that Liberia acceded to, the first to accede to the treaty. Check the record. Liberia was the first to sign the ECOWAS treaty.
So you agree? So you agree with Justice Janet that the current Chief Justice
on the court come back and say, "Oh no, we can't abide by the court."
So you agree with Justice? So you agree with Justice Janet that the Chief Justice Francis Kokwa is inept. He's unfit to preside over the most sacred code of the land.
I'm in 100% agreement with Justice Janet. I am in 100% agreement with Justice Janet that Justice Kokwa has desecrated the seat of the highest court in the land, and he is unfit to continue to preserve in that court. And if he had any scintilla or respect for that court, he should resign. He should not sit there anymore. See what he's doing to the court. He is presiding over the demise of the judiciary. We are witnessing the death of the judiciary. We're going back to 1989, where Joe used to get instructions to the Chief Justice. Then, in 1989 was one of our lowest movements in our country. 200,000 people died. What they're doing again, they are revisiting violence upon the country. And people sitting down there and they're laughing. I have 3 children in London. My 3 children are with all passport. I'm with all passport. My wife is with all passport. The court said they should issue that passport. Have they issued it? What is Kokwa's position on it? He's concerned about criticism against it. Even the Chief Justice of the United States of America, John Roberts, was criticized. Kokwa said nobody should criticize him, even though he's doing the wrong thing. Liberia is at a difficult place again.
So before we leave you,
people who are elders in that country need to stand up.
Before we leave you, Isaac, you have served as former Deputy Minister for Public Affairs at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. After 3 years under the we-are-led government, what is your own assessment relative to governance, accountability, transparency? Just take 2 minutes before we can leave you, then we go over to the Justice Janet.
I think Liberia is sinking in a big black foxhole. You hear the Minister of Finance say he wants dictatorship to return to Liberia. He is publicly advocating for dictatorship. You heard him. Even though he tried to put a collar on and say benevolent dictator. Dictator is dictator. Forget about the adjective. What we're interested in is the noun form. If the man says he wants dictatorship, what he's trying to do is to even cover up his own criminality. 25 million of public money got missing under that man's watch. He's supposed to be accounting for that money. Instead of trying to do that, he is publicly talking about we want dictatorship in Liberia. Today you're discussing what? 33 million that cannot be formed between LRA, Central Bank, and commercial banks. The same man is still sitting there saying he wants dictatorship. So Liberia is at a difficult place again. Liberia is at its lowest nada. We are in a big black rabbit hole. Nothing is impressive there.
So is we are a dictator? Is President we are a dictator?
What?
Is President we are a dictator?
His finance minister said he is a benevolent dictator.
But we want to hear from you, Isaac. After 3 years, after 3 years under President we want to hear from you. Is he a dictator?
Why do you think he is?
For me, he's a dictator.
He's equating himself to the state. He's equating himself to the law. Why do you think he is?
For me, he's a dictator. So let's hear from you.
But friend, what they are practicing over there is dictatorship. Imagine that government ought to protect lives and property. 4 auditors die. Today, there is no autopsy report, no serious investigation going on. This is the government that ought to protect life and property. 4 auditors die working with their own government. Nobody can account for their dead body. No autopsy report, no serious investigation. People are dying up and down the country. Nobody saying anything. And you think that what they're doing is democracy? What is democracy? When you don't respect the rule of law. The supremacy of the rule of law is the basis of democracy. Is that what you see happening in Monrovia or in Liberia? My brother, stop joking. What they're doing over there, they are reinventing violence. And people who call themselves religious council, whatever council, they are not speaking. Let me say to you, God is a God of confrontation. That's why God sent Elijah to Ahab and said, you go to Ahab and tell her she's doing something wrong. Our religious leader needs to stand up and tell President you're carrying this country in the wrong direction. I'm calling on the Muslim Council, Liberia Council of Churches. They need to stand up. I used to admire Chief Kafuma Kone. When Chief Kafuma Kone passed away, I was there. I invited him Amika. When Bishop Francis was there, they spoke up. Why are our religious leaders still keeping quiet when these people are carrying our country in an undesirable place? It's bad. It's wrong. We have nothing to be proud of in the country now. They're violating law up and down the country. I don't want to take out the big brother space.
So,
we have my own time. I will come there.
Isaac, you have an opportunity.
I want to explore big brother Janet, and I want him to provide to us what he thinks would be the panacea for addressing some of the violations he just talked about. This man is inept. How do we deal with his ineptitude? How do we deal with Justice Kwakwa ineptitude? He needs to provide us some panacea. That's what I'm asking the question.
All right. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Isaac. That was the voice of Isaac Jackson. Isaac Jackson is the former Deputy Minister for Public Affairs at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. He's also the former permanent representative of Liberia to the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. We will have him on anytime next week to talk about his situation with the Liberian government. But he asked a very serious question with that Justice Janet. What is the panacea going forward? What can we do to address all of these gaps, these complexities, the violation of the rule of law, corruption, bad governance, the issue of economic sabotage? As an associate justice of the Supreme Court, a man who understands the complexities confronting Liberia, what can we do? What's the way forward? How can we save the nation once more from the hands of these bunch of dictators that have taken over?
Okay, thank you very much. In my closing statement, I'd like to thank you for this extraordinary opportunity. At least I have been able to explain a little of the immediate past history of our legal system and some of the things that have gone into building an independent judiciary over the last 12 years or 14 years, 2 years plus the 12-year of Mujiseli, which today are under serious threats. Now, having said that, what do we do moving forward? There's a book I read a long time ago, and one particular thing I gather from that book is this. That author say when you talk about peace, is to respect the rights of others. Then you have peace. When you take on a position where you trample on the rights of others, and you believe that today you are sitting in such a way that no one can touch you, you are destroying peace. You know the reason why sometimes even people we disagree with on certain basic things, we still go to court to protect their right. It is because we believe that when the rights of people are protected under the law, then we all have a chance of enjoying peace. I just give you a simple example. You know, the law says when you work for the government of Liberia or in the public service for a certain number of years, you should be retired after that kind of honorable service. You should be retired. And then you are pensioned. The government has a duty to take care of you until you pass. Do you know in our system, only when you're friendly with the president that you get some of those things? When you're not a friend of the president, you hardly get that. I'm not even sure even the men who just left office, some of the people who just left office are getting the benefits due them under the law.
Right.
So, but how do we proceed? Each of us has a responsibility. And that responsibility is to say to yourself, what is the little I can do to promote peace? And the way we promote peace is to respect the law. If we don't respect the law, we'll have problem. We will not. That's what history has shown us. In the 70s, most Liberians believed that the way the country was being run was bad. People were excluded. All kinds of things. We saw what happened. Then when the people came who say they came to redeem from all kinds of rampant corruption, they themselves became a major part of that corruption. Again, we had a different situation. And if you put all of these things together, in my knowledge of history, what the Weah-led government has done in 3 years of governing the country leaves a lot to be desired. Now to talk about the continuous constitutional violation, one after the other.
Not to interrupt you, Justice Janet, let me just ask the question quickly. Between the Weah-led government and the government, which one of these regimes most corrupt?
I didn't hear the
Martin?
Yeah, I said between.
Martin, we have had a council for so long. Let him conclude.
Yeah, let me just make this follow up. Anthony, it's very important. Okay. Between the Weah-led government and the Ellen-led government, which one of these governments is the most corrupt? Or which one of these governments is more corrupt, in your view?
Can we put that to the next episode?
Okay. All right, Council. I know you are closing up now, but what does your legal victory what does your legal victory mean for Liberia and Africa?
It means a further affirmation of the triumph for the rule of law and judicial independence. And we look forward to working with all of our colleagues in building a system that respects the laws of the country.
All
Anthony?
right. I think the council has ended there. Mountain Collie, what are your final closing statements so we can close the broadcast?
We just want to appreciate His Honor Justice Kabineh and Janet. You know, from the onset of this entire brouhaha, we stood up for justice. We stood with
Yeah.
Justice Janet. I led a massive protest in Liberia. Thousands of Liberians came out. We were calling on the legislature to halt the illegal impeachment against Justice Janet. They could not listen to us. Today, history has vindicated Justice Janet and us. We were right and they were wrong. So we just want to say thanks to Justice Janet. You know, his responses were brilliant, excellent, and we are very impressed, Justice Janet. We appreciate you so much. We are going to invite you back, probably on other issues, because you are a state man. Besides being a lawyer and a justice, you are a state man. There are a lot of things happening in Liberia. So on behalf of Voices from Ezai, with activist Martin K. and Cully, along with our guest host, Anthony C. we just want to say thanks to all of you. On behalf of our followers, fans, and supporters of VEX, Voices from Ezai, we appreciate you so much, Justice Janet, for your time, your effort, your intellect, your resources. We appreciate you. May God bless you as we hope for the best. You know, we just want to say stay safe. All is not well in Liberia. They might be hunting you. I know you are security minded, but the WIA government is dangerous. He's leading a dangerous dictatorship. They are killing our people. So you need to stay safe. Some people say I should tell you, you shouldn't go Liberia. So wherever you are, please remain there. And the WIA dictatorship is so dangerous and vicious. They are killing our people. They are looting state coffers. So thank you once more for the opportunity to have granted us such interview. We appreciate Liberians have listened to your wisdom, and we hope to use it for the best. So Anthony C. is back to you to finally close.
Martin Colley, I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to have co-hosted with you, with a very important guest, Justice Kabineh Mohammed Janet, a legal mind of our country. He is one of our legal minds that we should be proud of, and we took a sufficient time from him. We want to say thanks so much to him for doing that. We are focused on Liberia. Very soon we'll have him to ask him some questions. We will appreciate that, and our followers will also appreciate that. On that note, Council, we can't tell you thank you enough for the opportunity. Stay safe and bye bye. We are closing with the song from Nima that said Nima Unite. I was listening to it. I think they call your name in that song, and that is the song that is taking us home.